this beautiful man.
If you just wait until somebody talking to the mic.
We.
Thank you. John Nitz, ladies and gentlemen.
Right. How's everybody doing today? I'm moderating this thing, right?
Yeah, honestly, it's really slow.
Oh, yeah, I know. You guys are a bunch of.
Is this on?
Two missed calls from Dennis Hopeless.
Yeah, they call it.
Two missed calls from you while this is going on. Here. Let me show you something.
What are you doing?
Call me. I want you to call me when you see what comes up on my phone when you call me.
Interesting. There
you
you go.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
How many people in here from Kansas City, like local, like you know? How many people came in from? I'll try it again. How many people came in from out of town for this? Where are you guys from? You're out of town. You're from Omaha. You're from
Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Ooh, good for you. Where? Never mind. Good for you.
Omaha area.
Omaha as well.
Is there a point to this beyond? It was a joke for me. Okay.
That's what's important.
Oh, we're late.
There's a reason he's dressed like a stage hypnotist.
Colin Budd, if you guys want to go in and meet him inside, was the world's youngest stage hypnotist. Is that correct?
That's
Yes.
what he says, yeah.
That's what he says. Yeah. So that's no more interesting than anything on our panel. All right, bye guys. So for those of you who are local, we are all local. We all grew up in the Kansas City area. They can hear me just fine without that. But we all grew up in the Kansas City area-ish. Clay grew up all over the world before he came to Kansas City. Greg actually grew up all over the world before he came to Kansas City. And Dennis just always lived in Missouri, right?
I went to K-State. At that time, I lived in Kansas.
Oh, okay, sure. And I also lived all over the country before we ended up settling in Kansas. I think that's a true.
So to his point about us all growing up in the Kansas City.
Well, I ended up growing up here, though. But I think that's part of the thing is that didn't most of us, we moved around a lot, and comics were always wherever we moved. So that was part of it.
I took comics with me wherever, and everywhere I went, I didn't know people who read them.
Were you the only comic guy in like your age group in a lot of school? Like
I started reading comics when I moved to Iowa in 4th grade. They read, the friends I had read them, and they weren't uncool, you know. And I moved like 3 times in a row, and I just took comics and music with me. And yeah, in high school, I read them all through high school. None of my friends did.
Yeah.
Girls seemed to think it was like a cute affectation, which didn't bother me. So people always say they gave up reading comics when they discovered
Girls in Cars.
but I found out that girls kind of liked them. So
Yeah.
they didn't like the comics.
Yeah.
They didn't like you either.
So Dennis, did you always read comics, or you didn't read comics at all until?
No, I read them until middle school, and then I stopped because the comic shop place closed. And then I picked them back up in college.
What was the shop? That was it Atomic Comics back then?
Yeah, it was,
Yeah. The guy who runs that shop is a dude named Brian Nolan. We're friends on Facebook. Lives in Australia now. He's one of my guys I grew up with because I worked at a comic shop about that same time when Brian opened that store. And I was talking about this on the way here. What took me so long to get here is that I know everyone at this show. How many have you done every planet?
Since maybe 2000.
Yeah, you didn't do like the first two in like 98, 99? Because that was one like the first one was there were like 4 guests. It was Mark Wade, Devin Grayson, Phil Jimenez.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
And then the next
year
year
across from Devin.
And the next year was the ABC year where they had Kevin Nolan and Rick Beach and.
Yeah, I think I did the first one, maybe not 1 or 2 after.
Yeah, I've done every single one of these. Like I ran into a guy that he was there with his daughter, and I told his daughter, I have known your father for 25 years because we worked in the same comic book store when we were teenagers. That's bananas to me. That's it. But I mean, part of this is that, you know, when I was growing up in Kansas City, there weren't any comic book creators. There were 2 people that made comic books that lived in Kansas City. One of them was a guy named Steve Lytle. And Steve, I actually get along very well with Steve now. I think he's a really great guy. But he's from an older generation, and he is into stuff that I have absolutely no connection to. And the other guy is a gentleman named Richard Corbin. And Richard Corbin is a recluse, like a famous recluse, to where I have met him 1 time in my entire life. And I think we were in the same room for 4 hours and spoke 9 words to each other. So, and if you guys have already listened to me for 30 seconds, you can tell that's not how I do things. And but those are the only 2 guys, and that was it. So when I was growing up, there were nobody that made comics. So if you had questions about comic books, how to make them, nobody that was local knew how to do it. And there were a small group of guys from Iowa that including mainly Phil Hester, that came down to the Kansas City show every single year, and you get to meet them and talk to them about comic books, and you got to meet them and talk to them about what they were into or what kind of process they were into. And then that was the only outlet I had until I started working at a comic shop called Elite Comics, and that's how I met Clay. And Clay and I were both trying to start like our first self-publishing stuff. On eBay, he had 1 or 2 slave labor books out at that point.
I think one in 98, 99 was.
And I self-published my first book like in 99, 2000. And so I mean, it was weird because I didn't know anybody that wanted to make comic books. And then there's the guy in the comic shop, he wanted to make comics. And apparently I did one of these shows and reviewed a portfolio of this kid, and I was pretty nice to him. And it turns out that he's now one of the Eisner Award-winning best artists in comics, which is great because he was trying to break into comics and would come to the cons with his crappy portfolio, and I was really nice to him. So later when I said, "You're really good, we got to work together," he said, "Hello," because he's a puppet. And then Dennis I didn't meet until like Gearhead came out. I think I don't think I even met you until
2006.
Yeah. So I mean, that's weird to me because some people seem to maybe like you longer than that. That's weird. I don't.
And Gearhead was a book Dennis did with Kevin Mellon, who used to live here and now lives in Atlanta. That was
Arcana.
Arcana published
yeah.
it, yeah.
Publisher that doesn't exist anymore.
It still
Oh,
exists.
it exists.
We just don't care. It's a Canadian publisher.
That also doesn't
Very
print
proud
comics.
of
They
it.
don't print comic books anymore.
Look, he produces movies, animated features.
Yeah. Does he?
He did some Kevin Sorbo movies.
Nice.
Sci-fi, I guess it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a small Canadian publisher. We were thrilled when they said yes.
Yeah.
And then Clay immediately told us that we should not be so happy.
Well, yeah, they published a lot of crap.
Yeah.
No, and I mean, that's how I met Dennis and Kevin. They were at a convention, I think, and showing off, probably before it was published, I think, and I was just impressed immediately with Kevin's art and
Why?
And
What's wrong with you? You're usually the meanest person alive, and
I think you're a lovely man.
and you're the meanest person I know.
anyway, but that's how it works. So I had done some stuff. So Dennis and Kevin were showing their stuff around, and that happens a lot. And you could tell right away that they had a lot of potential, and so I took an interest in kind of getting to know them and following them around, and seeing what they did. And Dennis is now writing Spider-Woman at Marvel, and Kevin is a storyboarder for the Archer TV show. So they've done very well for themselves.
Yes, sir.
And Jai's a panel moderator.
That's right.
You all start out doing something independent on your own, and you just kind of showed it to people and got it published on your own, and then
Everybody but Greg, because
I did my, well, I mean, it wasn't published, but you paid attention because I had it on Zuda.
yeah,
So it's
Greg just had really, really good pages that no one had ever seen before. And when I saw him, I said, "You're really good. We should work together." And then it took a couple of years of him getting better and better and better. That by the time his first book came out, it was a book at Dark Horse, which is Alien. Like most people, it wasn't the book Alien. That's the animated concept. It's a weird thing that your first book would be at a major publisher like that. Most of the time, you do honk around on your own, create your own stuff, and then you get better until you show when you're serious. But he was just out of the gate, like out of the head of Zeus, fully formed, popped out wearing armor.
Greg was a guy who, like, you would see his work here and there and just be, I mean, personally, I would just be astonished. It was like you were woodshedding, and I don't know what you were doing, but it was like everything you would do that I would see, little pieces here and there, was so good. It was like, eventually Jai's going to trick him into working with him or something, because I just couldn't understand why Greg wasn't doing. And you knew with Greg that as soon as Dream Thief, which is the book he and Jai did, came out, that he would lead immediately. A, because he's really good, and B, because he's professional.
Right. But that was the thing. That's weird. Like most people don't start that way, but for him, it was when he popped out fully formed. Everybody asked the exact same question to me when I would show them Dream Thief. Who is this artist? Where is he from? How old is he? Where has he been hiding? Why, because no one had ever seen his stuff, and he was just dynamite right out of the gate. But I think all of us, I actually think Gearhead is very good. The Dennis's first book, but it was obviously like a 12-issue series, and then you had to cut it down.
Well, I just didn't know how to write a comic book. So it's I think it was 4. I don't
Yeah, it's
even
4
have
issues.
It's a long time.
It's 12 issues worth of
12 issues
dialogue
worth of
in
information,
4 issues.
And it doesn't have an end date.
No,
We
it
figured out
doesn't.
when we made the trade that if we put to be continued at the end, it wouldn't be frustrating. Yeah, it worked out.
But Dennis did like the right thing, that he actually had a fully formed book in his head that he wanted to move forward with. Then I think Clay and I did the lowest hanging fruit possible, which is to do short stories with our buddies that were already professional or kind of professional. And the good news about that is you get kind of professional looking books because you're working with people who are already pros. But you're asking a lot of favors, you're beg, borrowing, and stealing to get the thing produced. And then when it doesn't come together exactly how you want it to, you only have yourself to blame because you went for the lowest hanging fruit and it didn't quite work out. Whereas I think as we both went along, we both introduced ourselves to doing longer form work that is what our calling cards became. So like, Clay was doing an anthology title that ended up meeting a lot of cool people. And because you met a lot of cool people, that led to his long form book. And for me, it was kind of the same thing, as I did a crappy anthology that led to me doing a really not crappy anthology. That when I did the not crappy anthology, people were like, wow, this is really cool.
What awards did you win?
A lot.
Tell him.
That is very accomplished.
Tell him
You're
you're
the
the
worst human being.
talk of
He's
your book.
done nothing but compliment you so far.
I know, that's the best part of it's evil. But when I did the not crappy book, it got people to pay attention. And oddly enough, Clay worked on the not crappy book that.
Except my story was crappy.
His story
art
really
was crappy, but oddly enough, kind of a weird segue. So, when I was in college, the comic book that kept me reading comics was a book called Starman by James Robinson and Tony Harris. And I mean, I would have been done if not for that book, I think, because it was grim and gritty, dark. Just I thought it was not enjoyable stuff. But so I did this anthology story with Jai, and Jai must have sent this book all over creation because it's not like it was widely distributed. But
Thanks.
Well, it was self-published. Okay. Anyway, but so I worked at Image Comics for a while as a PR and marketing guy, and James Robinson, again, had written Starman, and then had gone on to write movies. He wrote A League Extraordinary Gentleman, which was not a great movie, but that's what he was into. I get this phone call from him. It was like an idol of mine, and he's like, so I read this short story in this anthology, which was this paper museum thing I did with Jai that I'd been kind of hiding from people because I thought the story was so awful. Not the story, but it didn't come together.
The art's bad.
The artist was talented, but just kind of rushed in and didn't do it well. And one of the things he did at the end, so the story was about somebody being chased by humans. At the end, he drew a bunch of monsters instead of humans, which is fine, except James called me and said, hey, I really like the story, I'd like to make a short film out of it. And I'm like, whoa, okay. I mean, you're an idol, you're in Hollywood. He's like, I think I can get friends to do special effects and what have you. And so that was my introduction to James, who I've gone to know for years. Anyway, to me, it was just kind of an example of how just getting the work out there can lead to cool stuff. And I ended up working with Tony Harris years later, who drew Starman in a different situation. But so I ran into James years. I told you this recently. I ran into him years after that because I never heard anything after he sent me the script he had written. But at the time, I was just like, wow, this guy who I love, he wants to. I ran into him at a DC Comics party, and I said, James, do you remember years ago? And he said, yeah, I made that film. I was like, you made the movie? And he said, yeah, but the problem was those monsters at the end were really hard to do the special effects for, so the special effects never got finished, so the movie never got finished.
They're not supposed to be monsters.
I was like, well, they weren't monsters in the script. But I mean, it's just crazy to me that he's like, I'll show it to you sometime. I've never seen it.
Yeah.
But again, that's kind of how it works sometimes. It's like he responded to the idea. He could see past the fact that the story wasn't maybe the best finished product. He recognized the genius behind the story. and razor bladed that story out of Jai's book. But
That's so sweet.
But no, yeah. But I had done an anthology where I met a bunch of cool people, and I have copies of them at my table, and I was showing them to Ryan Brown, who's sitting next to me. And there's quite a few really successful, talented artists. They did like the first work in this book just because we knew each other. But once I kind of saw how that led me to finding out how the industry worked. I figured out how to make a book, how to solicit a book, how it was distributed. Just
How to get it printed too. That's a lot of how the sausage is made. It's like dealing with printers and making sure they have files to them.
because I had to say, this is the end of the '90s, so I kind of had to jury rig whatever I could to organize the files to give them to slave labor.
I had to mail actual pages. I remember mailing actual pages to a printer, and because if they didn't, and they charged me to scan them because there was no way that I could have them scanned. I didn't have a scanner. What's a scanner? I didn't, you know.
I did have a scanner, but
How'd you do for lettering then?
I hand lettered it.
I lettered stuff.
Did you glue it on the page?
Yes, I hand lettered on sticky paper, and then cut the word balloons out by hand and put them on by hand.
I lettered in Publisher and cut the letters out and then drew around them on the page. But anyway, and so some of those people went on to do other things, and you kind of follow what people you know are doing. And that's so the first book I ever pitched on my own was to Image Comics, which was Hawaiian Dick, and it was accepted by Image, and you know it was well received, and then all the doors kind of opened from there.
Yeah.
In fact, I have the latest series.
The latest series of
I've got 2 copies of the new series at the table, but this is, so I still, 13 years later, or 12 years later, I'm still doing that in some format.
Well, and it's also once you start doing it, and once you, a lot of it's just you're getting kicked out of a flight of stairs. Like that somebody is just taking this thing you worked so hard on, this thing that you love so much, and then you hand it to them, and they smile, and then they kick you down an escalator. Like it's just, it's some days it's just not any fun.
Jay is better than anyone at surviving being kicked out.
Yeah, exactly.
But I put cushions at the bottom of it
before I get on. But that's the thing is that sometimes it is really brutal. Like sometimes people judging your art is very brutal. But the secret is that if you don't give up because you believe in the art itself, not even your art, just the idea of this is how it's an interesting way and fun way to tell stories, then it can be rewarding. And I think that like a lot of the stuff that I did was just to the detriment of my career, a lot of low-hanging fruit. Like I would just say, oh, what's the easiest thing I can do? What's the easiest thing I can do? What's the easiest thing I can do? When I finally started doing the hard thing, that's when I made the most dividends, because I was like, oh, guess what? If you really put the work in and try hard and do the really hard thing, then you really get, people's respect and they pay attention to you.
Nobody had ever given you that advice
Exactly.
before.
He also has the Twizzlers trick. Tell him the Twizzlers trick.
What is it?
You keep Twizzlers by your ear so you don't have to get up.
Yeah, exactly. And that agrees with me. That's how I'm getting so big. Yeah. Twizzlers are no fat, but they're all carbs.
I was complimenting. I don't know why you take offense.
How did you break into comics, Dennis, while living in Kansas or in Missouri? Because
How did your head get picked up? I don't even. Why Arcana?
We pitched it to Eric Larson is running Image. I was the
Right.
publisher of Image. So we pitched it to Image, and he wrote back very quickly and said, "This is close, but not quite there. I don't think it'll sell. You guys should make something else." And so we took that as, "Oh, he thinks it's pretty good." So we sent it to a bunch of publishers, and Arcana wrote back, "This is cool." Like Sean didn't even sign it. He just wrote back, "This is cool." And we tried to like decipher that for 3 days. Then we realized he had attached a contract. So that we took that as, "Oh, this is a great thing." But no, I mean, at this point, I think you can put stuff online and get the same kind of traction we got with that.
Yeah.
But at the time, just having someone else publish it and pay for it and have it come out, it gave me something I could get. I could hand out at cons. I could sell one.
it makes you. It's like it makes you a real boy when you have something that someone else has paid any money for. It legitimizes you, even the slightest publisher.
Well, and I remember Dennis, before he broke into Marvel, he was working on a bunch of cool, basically creator-owned ideas with some good talent, but none of it was done. And I remember him showing me like a Xeroxed package with parts of all these stories in them and asking me what I thought, and how that would work as like, big for an editor. And I was kind of mixed on it because, they like to read a complete story usually, but it looked
Yeah,
good.
it worked like a charm.
Because I just pretended it all had publishers and sent it to editors,
Right.
and that's how I got
It worked, but how long did it take? When you sent it was Alejandro, right? You sent it like, it was like
I
a
started
year.
this for 11 months.
Yeah, 11 months, but you don't give up. But again, you don't know. I mean, he must have picked it up at the right time and flipped through it and seen something he liked.
It's also a weird alchemy of who likes your stuff and who doesn't.
Yeah.
Because
Who likes you.
Yeah, who likes you and who doesn't. Because I kind of came to this realization. I was at a convention in Dallas a few weeks ago with a buddy of mine who's been out of the industry for a little while and is basically trying to get back in. And he was talking about different editors or different writers he worked with and blah, blah, blah. And I said, no one sucks at this job. Like I know very few people who are really bad comic book writers or artists. Most people who are getting hired are very good. It's just that they are getting pushed in directions by a company or editorial or whatever that makes them do something that is not their best work. And I've done that. I've turned in a job. I've been very proud of it. And then they said, hey, you can't have that character in there anymore. And I have to go back and rewrite it, and it's due tomorrow. Like, it has to be done now. And now I have to rewrite an entire story with a different character, so there's no extra layers of meaning or anything like that. Just now it's Hawkman. And there you go. And he turned it in, and you go, oh, that's, they paid me, so I can't complain, but I can complain because it's not exactly the thing I wanted it to be. The long story short, I don't know anybody who really sucks at this job. I don't know anybody who's really bad at it. It's just about whether or not you have the right circumstances of things that work together. And all of us found a thing that worked, and the thing that worked is what we ended up trading on. That was the thing. People go, oh, well, that's really good. That worked. And it's different stuff for different people. Like, some editors love some things I've done, and some editors would never give me the time of day on it. But I have one editor in particular who is my patron of my entire career. And now he is the executive editor at Disney. So I get calls about, do you want to do this, Disney thing that has nothing to do with anything you've ever done in your career. But I know you're a good writer and you can do it. And I'm like, yes, because he's going to pay me to write. That's awesome. That's a great deal. But it's, he gets me for whatever reason. Like, that guy is like, I like your work and I want to see more of it. So he hires me for anything. But, it may not be the thing I'm best at in the world, but I will always try hard for him. I'll always do it on time. I'll always take notes well, and so there's always a fine line between doing your dream job and just being professional.
What is the thing you're best at in the world? I think all of us. You start.
No, why don't you start? I would
Thrift shopping.
You start. Yeah.
This was not bad for a short time.
Greg, how about you? What are you up to? You're not talking.
No, he's happy to.
I'm just, yeah.
He's happy to watch us tear ourselves apart like it's Hunger Games.
What are you best at?
What are you best at? What are you best at?
I think it'd be, I think the question would be like, what are you not good at? What are you not the best at?
Well, we've been next, but you've already been at.
No, I don't know. I'm besides comics.
No, like in your work, like what do you think? What are you proudest of?
Here's a question I've got for you. Now you've kind of graduated. You're pretty much just doing Marvel work right now, right?
Yeah. Well, I have an exclusive.
Right. So is that creatively the most fulfilling for you, or are you looking forward to when you can kind of do your own thing? You're a smart, opinionated guy. I'm sure you got your own ideas.
Yeah, I mean, eventually I would like to write for myself, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's all a state of mind, and for me as the artist, I'm not having to deal with. Actually, what would be better, Frank? My style attracts a certain type of book. Like, they're not going to give me X-Men, so I don't have to mess with, continuity. I don't have to worry about costume changes and all that stuff. I create a style that they're going to stick me on a book where I'm probably going to find it creative.
Yeah,
They're not going to put me on something that wouldn't. I mean, my editor is pretty hands-off. My editor's Nick Lowe, edits the Spider-Man line. He's a fantastic guy, and he treats Moon Knight a lot like a create your own series. I can pretty free to change things, tweak things if I need to. I don't have anybody breathing down my neck telling me that I need to alter the art because of something going on in another book. The only times that I've ever had to change the art, it was purely from a storytelling perspective. It was, well, this needs to be a little bit more clear. Do this, and so I think I can be creatively fulfilled on any book that I'm working on simply because I don't know if I would say. I have gotten offers for books that I turned down because I knew right off the bat that it just wouldn't really scratch the itch that.
Yeah. That's a nice luxury to have too, being able to say no. I mean, you can always say no.
Well,
You should say no more than.
That's the benefit of being an artist, though. You guys don't always have that luxury because I can only work on one book at a time, and because artists are a little bit more rare, the demand for them is higher, and I have to turn down more work than I get offered, and that's often the case with any artist that's been doing work for any of the the bigger publishers. They're usually saying no a lot more than they're saying yes. But that's a luxury of artists. I mean, I feel bad when I hear about writers having to hustle. Because I just don't have.
What do you do best, Butter?
Well, I do my own. I mean, I think I world build and create. I have a hard time under any editorial guidance, to be honest with you. So I mean, I don't like writing what other people want me to write, and it's caused me some problems, but I like creating my own worlds. And like I'm doing a new book for Valiant right now that's basically, they kept telling me, treat it like a creator on a book, treat it against. So the characters, my creation, the world. Now, there's been editorial input that has altered that and made it different from what I would have originally done it as, but by the same token, it just feels like there's more freedom. I don't have to, I don't like.
And even if you dislike Clay as much as I do, you can pick up that book because Louis LaRosa's drawing it, and he,
Some of it, yeah.
he is a monster.
Yeah.
Which book is that?
It's called Savage. It's coming out in November.
It just got announced, like last week, right?
Yeah. But like the stuff I've done at DC or Marvel that I like the best. Like I did a small backup story in an issue of Men of War at DC that I know DC hates. I know Dan DiDio has to hate it because it's fun. It's got colorful art. It's a cool concept.
Dan DiDio hates fun.
He does hate fun. He does hate fun. I think
He just wants to stay safe.
he would admit that. I think he'd be the first guy to say he hates fun. So, and my editor kind of, at the time, I think he kind of pushed me over a cliff by asking me to do it, but I couldn't say no because it was a new concept, new idea. In the page, in the space of 8 pages, it introduced this whole concept that I thought was really cool. Even in the back of my head, I knew it wasn't going to do me any good beyond that story.
But it was fun. And
It was fun. A guy named Paul McCaffrey, French artist, drew it and colored it, and it was well reviewed. I was really happy with the way it came out. But I knew the whole time, because I've done enough work for DC, that it wasn't going to be something that got me any traction at DC. I did a Superman story once that Phil Hester and Andy Parks drew, and on the cover of the first issue, it was a 3-issue series, a 3-issue story. On the cover of the first issue, Phil drew Superman fighting luchadors. On the second cover, he drew Superman hanging from the bayonet of a giant toy soldier, and on the third cover, he drew Superman bursting through a pile of teddy bears. And it was really fun, and I liked it, but I remember talking to my editor and saying, man, that teddy bears cover probably didn't do me any favors with Dan DiDio.
Yeah.
He said, no, I probably didn't, but it was a great story, and I'm like, that's just not what they want, That's what I like, but it's not what they want, so you gotta temper,
What do you do well then?
I'm good at writing superhero comics that are not superhero comics. I misunderstand the assignment a lot, which makes for, unique stories. Like I made Spider-Woman pregnant because my wife had been pregnant. This is the only thing my mind could create. But it made for like a really creatively fulfilling story that's been really well received.
That was after they shot down the pregnant Wolverine page. The pregnant,
It was 8 months. We were supposed to tell a story this 8 months later, and nobody else didn't dawn on anyone else to make the character pregnant.
Pregnant man thing.
I think that's what I do. I think I tell non-superhero stories in superhero universe.
which to some degree relegates you to a niche, but it also gives you an identity, and I think an audience that is maybe more devoted to you than
Hates me.
right. That's good too.
They do hate you.
At least they have
At least they care, yeah. If they hate you, they care.
I'm good at trolling runaway fans.
Yeah,
I don't do it anymore, but for a minute there.
You're really good. You're the top guy in the world at that.
What about you, Jed? What's your best thing?
I think I'm probably like the third best guy at my own thing that I do well. Like I would hire 2 other guys I know before me on the same job. Like if you said, hey,
So you're the best at being the third option.
yeah, exactly. It's like, I'm like a third string quarterback. Like you should never see me in a game if these other guys are available. Well, not if you don't. Yeah, if I got league minimum, that'd be great. Because I think the way that I tell stories and the way that I express ideas, there are guys I know who I think do a better job of the same thing. And when I read their comics, I go, oh, that's what I should have done. Because one of all of us are good friends with Phil Hester, who's inside it, and he has like a metric of if this guy is not working, then I should not be working. Like he's like, and it's David Lapham. He's like, if David Lapham is not hired to draw something, then I should not be drawing. Like because if they could get David Lapham, they should, because he's better than me at the same thing. And I feel that way about there's a writer named Fred Van Lente, who I think Fred is so talented, and I think he does the same thing I do a lot better. And I'm like, oh, well, if Fred Van Lente's available, you should go hire him. Like, that doesn't do me a whole lot of favors.
So if you see a giant Nitz book on the stand,
You should
just look for the
Fred Van Lente that I ripped off. Yeah. But I think that the one thing that has been most creative fulfilling, that I do well, that was creatively fulfilling for me, was when I met Greg. Greg really pushed me in a direction that was different than what I had been doing. He was saying, hey, you're really good at this thing, why don't we amp that up and say, instead of what people expect, we do something that we want to do. Because what we are into is this really, really specific thing. And if we tap into that, we can show other people that this thing we like is actually really good.
Are you being purposefully vague? You
Yeah.
said this thing 7 times. What is the thing?
Well, give us the nugget.
Part of it.
Not the nugget. Well, part of digging out was
And you've never read any of your work.
I know, exactly. Part of the thing that Greg and I did really well was in Dream Thief we made a despicable character likable. That we start off with a guy who is a despicable person, and we find that over the course of the book, he's not. It's not that he's not such a bad guy. It's just that he could be redeemed. That and the
Is this a cry for help?
It is. The thing I always argue is that Peter Parker is really boring. That we watch a nice guy get screwed over again and again and again, and it's bothersome to watch a nice guy get screwed over again and again. He's late with rent, and he did this really noble thing, but then he's screwed over for it. And actually, it's really exhausting after a while. And I thought it would be really fun to watch a bad person get screwed over again and again and again, and then you go, well, he deserves it, so it's kind of fun to watch him get his comeuppance. But then when he starts doing the right thing and still gets screwed over, you go, oh, well, that wasn't fair, because he did the right thing. And you go, oh, that made me think for 1 second about this fictional character, about whether or not that's right, that someone does the right thing and still gets screwed over. It's sad when it happens to Peter Parker. It's not sad when it happens to our lead character, John Lincoln. So once we started pushing that idea, it was I think it opened a lot of doors creatively for me, because it was something that I felt like this is the kind of thing I should have been doing all along, was not the low-hanging fruit. And now I'm like, oh, not only is it rewarding, but it's also, it's creatively exciting to say, hey, this guy he's gonna kill somebody, and we don't know if it's the right thing or not. And we have to ask that question. And it's funny to wrap that all up in a thing about like hating fun and everything, is that we have another mutual friend that he wrote a book that he ended it with this really super vague ending, like, well, maybe the villain's right. And the comic company was like, can't have that. We cannot have that. He goes, isn't that better? And the answer is yes, it's so much better than at the end, hey, maybe the villain was right. Like, that's a morally ambiguous story that people would make them think. And they go, we don't want him to think, we want Hawkman to win. And you're like, oh. So it hamstrung this really great epic he was talking about. And I was like, the fact that Greg and I got to do something where we own it, no one could tell us no. And anytime, especially after we got past the first issue, anytime they'd be like, hey, what about this? We're like, no, we're gonna do it our way. We don't care anymore, because you don't even read it. So we don't.
Yeah.
I think, and I don't know if this goes for everywhere, but usually, I feel like the first idea is not the best idea.
Right.
And so I'd always try to encourage you to like, okay, well, dig deeper. What would you do if you could do that? If you could use that, would you do something else? And I remember a lot of the stories. I remember the second issue was ended up very different than what the original picture. It was very stereotypical.
Right.
And then you would write an article, and that was something that I always liked about you. Jai consumes like information like a machine. It's just like just constantly, reading about the world, and he's got this memory that just retains all of it. And so he was using a lot of the stuff that he's pulling from real life and just using it, inserting it in stories to create a little bit more of an interesting, instead of a stuntman who dies and then, John's taken over by a stuntman who dies because he's working for a mob. Then it becomes like this gay porn star thing where they're selling drugs
Which is all based on a real story.
Yeah, it's all based on real, and I thought that's the kind of thing that you usually do bring that is a little bit different. It's just a little bit more of a raw, real life stuff that you don't normally see pop up because it's a little off the beaten path. You don't usually know how to wrap that into like a 20-page comic, but that's why Dream Thief is usually pretty intense.
Yeah.
Just because we're trying to bring so much.
Too much to say.
Too much to say.
We're kind of wandering around just talking about stuff. Does anybody have any questions about anything with Kansas City?
My question is, what were the key factors that made you go from okay to really derogatory? Like, what was it that?
Well, there's an assumption in that question.
Yeah, we'll let you know when we turn into good writers. The thing I always use as a quote when I teach is, have you ever seen the movie Beetlejuice? There's a great line in Beetlejuice. It's the same line for two different characters. And early in the movie, when Alec Baldwin has found out he's dead, he's given this book of the character's name. What is Alec Baldwin's character's name? Because you went as him as Howard Von Halloween.
Yeah, I know, I don't remember.
What's his name?
I just saw him the guy from Beetlejuice.
Yeah. So anyway, Alec Baldwin in Beetlejuice, whatever his character's name is, he when he's dead, he look it up. If only we had supercomputers in our pockets, it would tell us these things. He gets a book that is how to be a dead person, right? And he is reading it, and he goes, "This reads like stereo instructions." Like, ah. And then later in the movie, when everything is all resolved and they're going to live with the human family that are alive, the husband of the family has a book of how to live with dead people. And he goes, "This reads like stereo instructions." Like, he's so happy. And there's the same line from two different characters that explains both those characters specifically. One guy is Joe Average, he's the everyman. And he
Adam Maitland.
the Maitlands, that's right. And then the Jeffrey Jones character is Dietz, is his last name, but I don't know what it is.
I want to figure out where he's going with this.
But
Charles Dietz.
Charles Dietz, awesome. So Adam Maitland is the everyman, and he's like, I don't get these, how these things work. And the other guy is kind of a nerd, and he's like, I love how things work, right? But it's the same line, and it tells you everything about those characters. But if you want to be a good writer, you can't just be entertained by stories. The everyman is entertained by stories. The everyman's been entertained by stories for 30,000 years.
You gotta know how it works.
You got to know how it works, and you have to care how it works, and you have to care how it works on a really deep level, to where you're insulted by bad stories. So, and when someone tells you a bad story, you don't just go, that story sucked. You go, that story sucked. Tell me a better story next time, because don't pollute my life with bad stories. And that's why the people who are the most uncompromising in almost every medium are the people who are the most successful. That's why people are drawn to Cormac McCarthy's work, because he's ferocious with his writing, and he doesn't write like anyone else, and he will not suffer your crappy story. And it's the same thing with Stanley Kubrick movies. Like Stanley Kubrick would have died before he made a movie he didn't like. Now it doesn't mean you have to like it, but he would die making the kind of movie he wanted to make. And then that same thing happens in television, where David Milch might have been the single most self-destructive person who's ever been given $1 million, and that dude would make the greatest TV show you've ever seen. It would move you on every level. Why? Because he cared so much about that story. He was not simply entertained. He's not simply entertained. He cared deeply about how things were made. And I think everybody I just mentioned is that way. And I think in comics it's the same thing. You can go inside and you can talk to people who are merely entertained by comics and like comics and they want to make comics. And then you can meet somebody who knows how they work. And when you meet that guy who knows how they work, it comes out immediately. And even if they don't do the best comics in the world, the comics that you really want to read, you are interested in what they do. Because,
I agree. I think the question is tough, because I don't think you can really determine when you've become. Anything you do is some people are going to respond to it. So there's stuff, I have to remind myself sometimes there's stuff I did in the past that I'm not crazy about that people are big fans of. So, I'm not always the best. People react to things differently. Like this book that I talked about, this Hawaiian Day book I've been doing for a long time.
available on sale as
There's like a cult audience who really love this book, and it was something that I invested a lot of myself in and just loved it myself. So I think that's, rather than say I became a better writer, I think that it was more appealing to readers because they sensed that I was personally invested in it. In terms of quality of writing, the first issue of Hawaiian Day came out and I immediately saw things I had done wrong. My transitions weren't real strong. So you have to look critically at what you've done in terms of technical aspects and try to make all that better. But then you realize, so then I started doing different transitions and made more sense. But then I think, oh shoot, I've been doing the same transitions, and it's like now I've fallen into this where I'm not trying to get, because the audience may not notice if you've gotten better, but you still want to get better, right? And in my head, I'm always thinking to myself, I've got this new book coming out, and in my head I'm like, this is going to be the best thing. Everything I failed at in the past, I want to do better at this time. And then, deadlines hit, this and that, and all of a sudden you feel like maybe you've missed the boat. But ultimately, the key is how people respond to it, because it's a commercial product and you want people to like it. So if people come back with love for what you've done, and you have to be satisfied with that.
Yeah, the heart of the question of, well, when do you know if you're any good or not? I think that, again, Phil Hester, one of his little fortune cookies he gives you, the secret ingredient to life is giving a shit. That if you give a shit, you will find yourself, like Clay said, personally invested in this book, to where I remember this is like pre-internet, like looking up where are tiki bars in different towns, because Clay had to go to these tiki bars because he wanted to be ensconced in this tiki culture, you know, and
also drink.
Yeah, he was weird. But that was a thing that it was really, it was easy to see that he cared. And obviously, like Dennis with Spider-Woman, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, he's like, I don't know how to make stories, so I'll just make a breakthrough. That's not true. He cared so deeply about how to do this book, and he did Spider-Woman before, but then it was the new take was, now what do we do after this big event?
He's personally
invested in it, and it's something where you can't go on the internet and look up a review of Spider-Woman without seeing the in-depth, where they're really, it's not just like, art was cool, story was cool, that's how a lot of comic movies are. They're really looking at that book because people are moved by it, people care, and most people like it.
Here's the other thing is, there are writers I respect and think are great writers, and I always try to figure out there's writers that people love that sell millions, hundreds of thousands of books that I don't have any, I just don't. I feel like I can see their tricks, you know what I mean? I feel like it's predictable, and Dennis and I have argued about one of these guys, but I just feel like whenever I'm reading his book, I know where he's going with everything, because I can see behind the curtain, so to speak.
Right.
So in my head, I don't want to be that guy. But then when I'm reading guys who I feel intimidated by because I can't figure out where they're going, but it's still brilliant. A recent writer that I'm really, really impressed with is Tom King.
Tom King's killing out Sheriff of Babylon.
And Vision at Marvel, that I think is the best superhero book I've read in years. And so immediately I'm like, where did he, in the context of a creator, of a corporate-owned book, where did he come up with this interesting hook, make it work, It's when I'm confused. It's like when a guy, it's like I can't figure Grant Morrison out, but I'm blown away by what he does. Those are the guys that I kind of try to draw lessons from because they're not readily apparent. If a guy leans on the same thing all the time and sells a lot of books, and I can see where he's going in every issue, okay, people love it, whatever. That to me just doesn't.
I think that's actually a big part of it. When I was younger, most comic book artists amazed me, and I couldn't figure out how they did it. And then as I got better, fewer of them amazed me. And so now, if I go to the comic shop, I'm just making up a number, but half of them, I know how they do what they do. I'm like, oh, well, I know how to do that. I can do that. I can replicate that. Then that means that maybe I'm somewhere in the middle. If a comic book artist walks in and he looks at everything on the rack and he says, I can do all of that. I know exactly how they did it. Then he's probably one of the best comic book artists in history. I think it's really a matter, and I think you probably do the same thing with writing. If you could figure it out, then that means that you're probably technically more proficient in that.
It's also why you're never going to think you're awesome, because you can't amaze yourself.
Right.
You know how that sausage was made. You're sitting there in your underwear stressing about it.
Yeah.
I always amaze myself.
I feel like people think I'm cynical and everything because I'm really hard. I'm really hard on. I don't think most comics are very good. I don't think they're well written.
I don't think anybody thinks you're.
I think, yeah.
Okay, the point is, I'm a little cynical. But what I'm saying is, I'm not cynical to be cynical. I'm legitimately not impressed. And if I am impressed, it means that I know I've still got room to grow. You know what I'm saying?
No.
So I'm talking about Tom King because I'm really impressed. I'm not gonna dump on people.
That was,
but
there's a that was a microphone right. But that's like what I was saying earlier. Is that Fred Van Lente, he did a Taskmaster miniseries of Marvel. It's maybe the best miniseries I've ever read. It's ridiculous.
It's funny you say that about Fred because in the process of doing this Valiant work, they gave me his Archer and Armstrong arc he did, and I realized I haven't read a lot of his books, but I realized everything I've ever read by this guy is way better than the average.
Oh yeah,
Really
he's
good,
he's just stupid talented, and so it's one of those things where I go back and read that book, knowing what already happens in it, and looking at the tricks he used because they are not the kinds of things where you know what a lot of people don't. If you come to our table and look at Dream Thief, I will tell you I drew the damn book because I will try and take as much credit for it as possible. But the absolute 100% true answer is that we don't know where a lot of stuff came from because we were working so closely in the same room on it that what Greg drew some days, I would go, that's awesome. What if we amped it up to this?
Whenever I would read interviews or listen to like a film commentary, and the two people would be kind of came up with that? I always think that they were just bullshitting, trying to
Right,
give the
trying to be so
credit.
sweet.
Now,
No,
yeah, people
no.
talk about Dream Thief, and they're like, yeah, whose idea was that? I'm like,
Yeah, I don't remember who came up with that. And there will be parts where
Since it's in now.
Oh yeah, but that whole thing about like I'll go back and read a book that I know how it happens, I know how it ends, and I'm like, he still fascinates me. It's something I've read 3, 10, 20 times. So when you find somebody that you are into, it's worth it to go ahead and continue to check out their stuff. Speaking of that, as we're in now, for those of you who are fans of Kansas City comic books, you are in a wonderful time because now when we get together for tacos or at somebody's birthday, it is a full house of professional comic book creators. And there are people doing amazing work. So besides just us, you can go pick up Dennis's books at any comic book store in America. And you can do... You can and should. You can do that with Greg. And now you can pick up Clay's new books that have just got announced that are going to be out later this year. They will be everywhere. My new books that just got announced that are going to be everywhere. You should do that, but you should also check out a lot of people in Artist Alley that are in there. Everybody, we have our own personal favorites of people who are working right now. Mine is Adam Smith and Matt Fox. They have a book. They are ridiculous. They have a book that just got nominated for an Eisner called Long Walk to Valhalla. You should go check it out. They are really, really good. They are not on your. They're not on the form. They don't have it. They're at the Lundy's table. So you have to look up a guy named Eric Lundy, and then you have to go to his table, and you'll find the most amazing book in the world, not by that guy. So that's something you should go check out.
And also books by that guy.
Drawings, I don't know where
He does make colors.
You're like, anyway, yeah, we've been told.
Get his life-saving drug technology.
We're here all weekend at our tables. If you want to come by and talk.
Yes,
and
we
buy
have
stuff.
books for sale. We are happy to talk more about
Yeah.
comics. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for coming by.
thanks, guys.
Okay, stop. Don't go to the next YouTube video or channel or skip or don't do anything. Real quick, 5 seconds. We have 3 different channels. Please subscribe to them. Username Nerd News, username Nerd Comics, username Nerd Games. We have separated them out into 3 ones. Choose all of them or just one to subscribe to. You'd love it. I promise you, we'll give you great content. It'll show up in your feed. You'll love it. Just real quick click. It doesn't take but a few seconds. You'd be awesome. Thank you.